USHRA Association is just about ready to stage one of the wildest single monster truck battles ever held, as well as one of the most incredible mud bog championship races ever. I'm Bret, Kepner, and along with Shelley, Herman, we'll be presenting the action at this incredible event. And Shelley, this might be one of the wildest shows ever.
Oh, I saw them in the preliminary event. I've got my earplugs ready. There's going to be more action here tonight than I can stand.
Well, I'll tell you, during the preliminary event in the monster truck action, the battle came down between the legendary Bigfoot Ford of Bob Chandler's St. Louis, Missouri racing team and Fred Schaefer's Barefoot Chevrolet. And Shelley, it looked like the Chevy may have had an edge.
I think it did, and it really shook up the fans here, so I can't wait to see what's going to happen tonight.
That indeed is going to be one of the wildest battles we'll be covering, but also the Mud Bog Championships will present some tremendous action.
I took a look at some of the cars outside, and with this cut tire division, anything can happen.
The Super Modifieds will be wild, and we'll be right back to bring you the action here in the Iron City. Ladies and gentlemen, and we are ready here at the Pittsburgh Civic Auditorium for the first round of the Battle of the Monster Trucks here tonight. And the very first machine getting ready to come out in this time competition is one of the wildest Chevrolets ever created. From Granite City, Illinois, Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Chevrolet. This is Bret Kepner along with Shelley Herman. And Shelley, this first round will be an elapsed time battle. The drivers have to negotiate our course all the way around, and the lowest elapsed time will automatically receive a spot in the final showdown. We'll be coming back with a second round of competition to determine the other finalists, and those two will shoot it out against the clock for the overall championship tonight. And you know, Shelley, that Freddie Schaefer is here to win.
He certainly is. Boy, after last night's run, I think he just wants to show up the rest of the guys even more.
No question, this 500 is the most powerful ever. Into the first set of cars, straight up in the air. Schaefer lands in fine fashion and now has to negotiate a 15-foot wide left-hand turn. He's done it in beautiful fashion. Off on top of the second set of cars. Into the tires. He lands, crosses the finish line, and that will give us our first elapsed time of the evening and the mark to beat. Now, I should bring up that this is the very first event in USHRA Association competition where, as we do in tractor or truck pulling, the first driver out will have the option of either accepting his elapsed time or coming back and trying it again. As you can see on the slow-mo, Freddie Schaefer was way up in the air. The elapsed time, by the way, 18.50 seconds. 18.50 seconds, and we'll find out whether or not Freddie will accept or decline. He has declined it. Our event director, Jim Harris, says Freddie Schaefer will be back. Again, this is Jesse Briggs. This is incredible playing for Keith Chevrolet. And Shelley, obviously, this thing looks a little bit different as it leaves the starting line.
Oh, there he goes. Up and over.
A hard landing for Berg as he brings it around that tight 15-foot radius left-hand turn and lines up for the second set of cars. Whoa, getting sideways.
Oh.
And he's
stuck.
This is his first USHRA Association National Championship event. He's having a wild ride. Oh. You can see on the replay as he comes up and hits the cars the first time where the thing stopped. He finally makes it down over the cars. And obviously, Jesse will have to come back and try it again as he heads out of the hall. The Chevrolet fans, though, still pretty happy with his performance. The next competitor coming out from underneath the opening here at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena is a brand new truck with a brand new driver. This is Dan Patrick out of Kingston, Ohio. And all the truck pulling and tractor pulling fans out there will certainly remember this guy. Shelley, he was one of the absolute best when he was driving the Tom the Mongoose McEwen Corvette funny car puller. And it was also a national championship winner in the tractor pulling division.
Well, this has got to be a big change for him.
And it looks like Patrick will be getting the green flag here momentarily as the racing surface has been cleared and the new driver, at least in monster trucks, in the stand of
Look at him go! Up and over. Look, got good height out of that first set of cars.
Huge wheel stand, huge launch, but it looks like something wrong as Patrick could not negotiate that incredibly tight turn. Now you'll notice that like all the other trucks, he's using both front and rear steering on this machine to make that turn. That's imperative to get around that tight U-turn at the end. Now, here's the second set. A little bit easier. Definitely nailing the throttle across the finish line. And Dan Patrick is out here obviously to win. Had a few problems in the preliminaries, but he is gradually learning Shelley, on the slow motion replay, you can see that first hit was obviously the hardest Dan Patrick has taken in his new career as a monster truck pilot. The elapsed time for that run, by the way, 29.42 seconds. Now remember, only the lowest elapsed time in this first round of competition gets an automatic berth into the final round and can sit out the next round of competition. Well, Shelley, the next competitor out in this first round of competition is a man that is here to win. Simple as that. This is the incredible Ford known as the Black Stallion of Michael Vonners. And Shelley, we first saw Michael on the U.S. Auto Association Tour last fall when this incredible home-built Ford ended up winning an event in Salem, Virginia in one of its first times out. It is an amazing truck.
Now, he's taking a whole different approach to this. I mean, he came out of the tunnel like he wanted to just get right at it.
Mike is an incredibly competitive young man. We found that out as soon as he built this truck. Now, he's got a new power plant in it for the 1988-89 season. 466 cubic inch cast iron Ford wedge motor. As you can see, it is supercharged, but it also has carburetors on top of it, uniquely enough. But this is one tough Ford product and a beautiful piece as well.
All right, the flag man getting ready.
The green flag out.
There he goes.
The first set of cars. Completely airborne over the first set of cars. Vonners gets her on the ground, steers the front and rear now, tries to make the turnaround as quickly as possible, and he's on a
He
ride.
got around it.
Ford fans are behind him. Another big wheel stand.
Oh, and he
Sideways onto the ground, but across the finish line. I would certainly guess, Shelley, that would be the quickest elapsed time so far.
It sure looks like it. He didn't look like he had that much trouble getting around that curve that has really hung up so many other guys.
Look at that ovation from the crowd. The Ford fans are out in force here tonight at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, and Mike Vonners looks very, very happy with that attempt.
Now, he deserves to take a bow.
Here's the slow motion of the initial hit. Take a look. The rear wheels 4 feet off the ground. The elapsed time is the quickest so far in this first round of competition, 20.50 seconds. Unbelievable run for the young man from the state of Maryland. But I'll tell you, we've got a lot more action to come here at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena. Indeed, we'll be back in just a moment with more monster truck action. Championship action from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Civic Arena with one of the wildest battles of monster trucks ever unleashed. One of the most unique machines in all of monster truck racing today at the United States Auto Association circuit. From Tampa, Florida, this is Kevin Dabney, the 29-year-old young man who has created Alien. Believe it or not, this is no Ford or no Chevrolet. It's a 1986 Nissan King Cab. Believe it or not, it is a rear engine. You can see the engine back in the bed there, Shelley. And that's no monster-motored Ford or Chevy power plant. It's a 380 cubic inch small block Chevy.
Well, tell me how that will help or hurt him.
I'll tell you, with a small block Chevrolet, it puts a lot of strain on the drivetrain, but it is supercharged. He's the starting line, unbelievably hard hit. And Dabney makes the turn. Both wheels almost lock. Now tries to straighten it out and almost hits the car.
Can he make it? Yes, he's gone over.
A great run. Great run for Kevin Dabney. Tell you, that little small block Chevrolet on that thing is truly unbelievable. But there's no question, Shelley, that was the hardest hit we've seen anybody take so far. When he hit those cars here on the replay, it was incredible.
I think he got the height that he'd hoped for because he just sailed over that.
This truck is substantially lighter than some of the other ones out there, only about 15,000 pounds. And actually, when it is airborne, it is capable of covering a greater distance than some of the heavier trucks. So that was a hard landing, too. The elapsed time, believe it or not, the mark to beat was the Black Stallion Ford's 20.50 second run. The Alien of Kevin Dabney runs 20.60, a tenth of a second behind. Unbelievable.
Here it is, the monster truck you've all been waiting for, Bigfoot.
This is the one everybody comes to see, and indeed, still the reigning king of the monster truck world. I'll tell you, Shelley, there's no question this truck has had some competition come up through the ranks in the last few weeks. In the preliminaries, as we pointed out, Freddie Schaefer in the Barefoot Chevrolet was right on Bigfoot's tail. Here's the green flag for the most famous Ford in the world. The official hit for Kenny Killing. The driver lands hard now, makes the turn beautifully.
He made the turn with the greatest of ease.
Crosses the finish line on a phenomenal ride, and And Kelly, a little bit of smoke out from the carburetors there. You can see as the hood comes up. The crews are down there. Let's see if we can check out the damage here. Now just a little bit of smoke from the back of the engine. They had that problem with the valve cover gasket during preliminaries. And indeed, that may just be a recurring problem. Nothing serious, no fire extinguishers needed. Look at the hit on the slow-mo replay. Straight up in the air and landing with the traditional Bigfoot crunch. Kenny Kelling behind the wheel has taken a beating, Shelley. The elapsed time, the quickest of the first round, 18.42 seconds for Kenny Kelling in the Bigfoot Ford. That will put him in the lead. The Barefoot Chevrolet of Freddie Schaefer is back on the starting line after declining his first run around the track, which was actually only 0.08 of a second slower than Bigfoot. Freddie Schaefer has said, I'll come back and do even better. Here's his chance to do just that.
You know, a lot of people name their trucks after their loved ones, and I think that Fred's named them after two loved ones that nobody would argue with. His two black bears named Sugar and Spice.
Right. He's relining the truck up in the starting line, but yes, it's very true. That's where the name of this truck came from. When he built his very first Chevrolet monster truck, he actually used to carry the two black bears, Sugar and Spice, around in the bed of the truck. It was incredibly popular, and he still has them on his property in Granite City, Illinois, on the eastern shores of the Mississippi across from St. Louis. Freddie Schaefer is taking his time lining this truck up. It is obvious, Shelley, that he wants the perfect line at these first hit of cars, or first line of cars, I should say. He wants to waste no time in getting over them.
Well, there's the green.
Way up in the air. Schaefer lands hard, makes the turn awfully tight, too tight, and spins it out in the first round. Schaefer heads for the car sideways in the air. And almost he is in the mud pit. I don't believe it.
I can't believe it. He's keeping it moving. He's getting out of it. And there he crosses the finish line.
But there's a classic example, Shelley, of a situation where Freddie said he would not accept his first pull, which was only 0.08 of a second slower than Bigfoot's best, and then came back and will now have to accept an obviously slower time. So Bigfoot takes the first round. Look at this sideways hit over the second set of cars, Shelley.
Well, you just see it head right for the bog, and there's nothing he can do about it because those front wheels are off the ground.
That's right. You can't steer when the front end's 15 feet in the air. Here's the elapsed time, 28.17 seconds. I tell you, we got some brave officials out there, don't we? Those guys just stand there and watch. They
I
don't
don't
care.
think they had a choice.
We'll be back with more action from the Pittsburgh Civic Arena in just a moment. We're already out of the picture, at least in the first round of time run action. The one and only Bigfoot will go into the final round. And now as we start the second round of competition, everybody but Bigfoot will have a chance to grab the lowest elapsed time in this round and move to that final championship bout with the Big Blue Ford from St. Louis. Jesse Berg from Wyoming, Michigan, with his brand new plan for Keith Chevrolet up for his second run. Carbureted gas-burning Chevy takes a hard hit on the first set of cars. Swinging around with a 15-foot turning radius. Underneath that 12-foot wide Chevrolet, the 17,000-pound machine bounces all over the place, gets back on the throttle and crosses the finish line. Still, this young man in his first ever national event, Shelley, is one of the strongest you'll ever see. You can see him stepping out for the applause of the crowd now.
Yeah, take a bow.
A great day, just for Keith, playing for Keith.
On the second set of cars here in the slow motion replay, you can see the machine completely airborne, but it landed a little short of the last car, and that caused this wild bounce, Shelley.
Ooh, look at him go over.
I'll tell you, the elapsed time, 19.38 seconds, is only less than a second slower than Bigfoot's best.
Back again is Sampson, driven by Dan Patrick. You remember, this is the first time he's ever driven a monster truck coming from a professional drag racing background. I gotta tell you, that's a real pretty-looking truck.
I'll tell you, Don Maples out of Alabama and the Sampson line of Chevrolets that he's had over the years have always been one of the absolute favorites with the Chevy fans. For that matter, with any fans. Mainly because of the workmanship that you pointed out, Shelley. These things are always immaculate, whether it's the paint, the chrome treatment, or even just the general assembly of the frame of the engine itself. They are always absolutely immaculate pieces of equipment. And we saw Dan in the first round take a pretty hard launch over that first set of cars. He has really yet in his first night of competition, even in the preliminaries, to make a full run all the way around full throttle. Maybe this will be the one he's looking for, Shelley.
Well, they're almost ready for him.
He's about ready to jump on that lot.
Dan This is a lot different than making a 200-foot pole in a multi-engine tractor. There's no question. Dan actually makes a good turnaround, a little sideways, but now makes the second in the cars, bouncing all over the place, lands very nicely and takes it across the finish line. That's the best run he's had yet, Shell.
You know, I noticed that just as he was getting ready to crush the second group of cars, he really seemed to get a speed up.
That was one of the first times that he actually made the turn correctly, I should say. And you can't blame the guy. It takes a long time to learn how to operate one of these trucks. As you can see on the slow-mo replay, the initial hit kind of came down. The nose came down very quickly, and that created that bounce situation that you say. He finally got all four wheels down on the ground. Dan wasn't afraid to nail the throttle again. Like we said before, though, you have to give this guy credit. After years of making truck and tractor pull passes, this guy's driving experience coming into this event consisted of him driving it off the trailer. 21.05 seconds. For the Ford fans, the young man we talked about earlier, Mike Vaughters, out of Hagerstown, Maryland, a little town in the center part of the state, well known for 75-80 dragway and a couple of some of the strongest circle tracks in the eastern seaboard. Mike Vaughters' beautiful black Stallion Ford, Shelley, I think you'll agree, is one of the cleanest monster trucks you will ever see.
You know, I saw them outside earlier, and it rained a little bit, and they were out there cleaning it up. I don't think it was just for the fans. I think it was for their own sense of pride.
It was very much a great analogy. Pride is the name of the game with Michael Vaughters, whether it's in the appearance or the performance of this truck. Using a cast iron production Ford motor, Black Stallion, a tremendous launch over the first set of cars. This young man wants a spot in the final round against Bigfoot more than anything. Makes the turn nicely, brings it up to the second set of cars. Another tremendous launch, a little sideways landing, bouncing around
What
the cockpit.
a great run!
Man, you can't beat that kind of performance. The crowd obviously responding to that kind of showmanship.
Yeah!
And Mike responding right back. There's a smile on that face underneath that Simpson helmet.
I can see the smile with the helmet on.
That's right. Mike has got to be happy with that. The elapsed time to beat in this round still 19.38 seconds by Jesse Berg's beautiful Playing for Keeps Chevrolet. And here's the elapsed time, 18.22 seconds. On the slow-mo, you can see this second hit, Shelley, one of the hardest of the event. Mike leaning out the window, never even thinks about lifting off the throttle.
Well, he's sure hanging on to the rearview mirror over there, too.
Well, you can see on that bounce, that thing was almost out of control. Look at him being thrown around in the cockpit. But listen to the crowd. The quickest elapsed time of the event, 18.22 seconds. Shelley, that is 0.2 of a second quicker than even Bigfoot ran in the first round. On the front of the machine, it says the best of both worlds. And I guess that's about an accurate description for a Nissan King Cab body with Chevrolet motivation. Shelley, this is the second run for Kevin Dabney, 29-year-old young man who has been involved in monsters of some sort or another for a solid 5 years now.
I think Alien recruited a few new fans after his first run today.
An amazing piece of equipment considering the fact that it doesn't use a 500 or 600 cubic inch big block engine. It's a small block, 388 cubic inch Chevrolet mounted in the bed of this Nissan cab. Leaving the starting line, another high-speed hit. And Dabney lands solidly with a lot of smoke coming out from behind the driver. You can see on the right bank of cylinders some unbelievable launch. Absolutely incredible.
I couldn't believe how high he got on that.
Kevin Dabney is not afraid to plant his right foot. That man will develop more attack speed than any other truck out there. Here, looking at the second set of cars in the slow-mo replay, no exaggeration, 35 to 40 miles an hour, and putting a 15,000-pound truck literally 25 feet in the air. Look at the landing.
Just think of it.
He sure looks happy with that landing, too.
Man, unbelievable. The mark to beat, 18.22 seconds by the Black Stallion Ford of Mike Vaughters. But how about this? The Alien, 18 seconds flat. The quickest run of the event by anybody with small block Chevrolet power.
Way to go, Kevin.
Bringing out onto the floor of the Pittsburgh Civic Arena, the incredible barefoot Chevrolet is Freddie Schaefer. And race fans, this may be one of the wildest single monster truck runs of the season. Freddie Schaefer came to this event with one goal, to beat Bigfoot and salvage the Chevrolet fans' reputations. With a mark to beat of 18.00 seconds by the Chevy-powered Nissan called Alien, Freddie Schaefer is going to have to literally floor this truck around the arena floor. He hits the first set of cars. Nice landing, beautifully smooth, bouncing around a little bit on the landing. Now making the turn as tight as he can, lining it up to the second hit. Airborne, unbelievable, on the nose and bouncing across the finish line. Shelley, the only way we're going to find out who's in the final round is when we hear the elapsed time. Look at the crowd. The Shelley fans here tonight love it.
Crazy. You know, he wanted it bad, and he was able to keep his head about him this time.
The elapsed time, as you can, or excuse me, the instant replay, hitting the second set of cars, almost clearing all four machines on the ground. Look at the tires distort when it hits the ground. Look at that, almost down to the rims. He had to beat 18 seconds flat, and the Chevy fans will love it. 16.60 seconds, and it works out just like a Hollywood script, Shelley. Bigfoot versus Barefoot, Ford versus Chevrolet in the championship final. Gentlemen, we're back at the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Civic Arena as we get ready now for championship mud bog racing action. And believe me when I tell you that one of the most impressive fields of mud bog championship racers has assembled here this weekend in the Steel City. This is the Budweiser 1988 GC. It is powered by a nitrous oxide injected alcohol burning 509 cubic inch aluminum Rodex Chevrolet. And interestingly enough, it uses a 2-speed automatic transmission, the power glide transmission that GM produced back in the mid-1960s behind one of the most powerful engines in this sport. This is an honest-to-goodness 1,500 horsepower engine. Well, Melvin Brown, like I said, is not that familiar with this particular vehicle. Rod Haverty, the normal driver, had other commitments. And indeed, during preliminary action, Melvin Brown did very well.
And giving him an advice out there, that's his father.
Yep, it's his dad, who is the crew chief on the machine. You can see him shake hands with him on almost every run.
Watch him now.
Well, let's hope that's good luck for him.
See if he can do it.
2,150-pound Jeep running car in the mud. One of the strongest in U.S. Auto Association competition. And Melvin Brown and Rod Haverty's Budweiser-sponsored Jeep Flopper should do extremely well on this very, very sticky pit tonight. Tremendous launch and down the pole. And that will unfortunately disqualify Melvin Brown going out of bounds at the finish line. A tough, tough break.
What a shame, because he had such a good run there.
He saw the machine getting sideways near the finish line and got out of the throttle before he ever crossed the finish line. But as soon as he got out of the throttle, the rear end came around to the left, and that's what hit the pole. Let's watch the replay. We can see exactly maybe what caused the car to get that sideways. Seeing the initial launch, the front wheels literally off the ground, and a rough ride for Melvin Brown. That's something you don't see too often, as a machine taking that rough a ride through the pit. You can see all four wheels were airborne there. He grabs the steering wheel, yanks it to the right, trying to steer the car away from the berm, but then the rear end gets airborne. That was the problem.
What a
It
shame.
swings around and hits the pole, and that put him out. This is the brand new Shake Mead 1932 Ford 5-window coupe, being driven by Tom Mintz out of Paxton, Illinois, a supercharged Chevrolet big block. This thing has been incredible in preliminary action, Shelley.
Well, you know, he's only 21 years old, and his sponsor, Sam Beck, has a lot of confidence in him.
That's for sure. They put together one of the strongest machines they could imagine. Like I said, a supercharged 466 cubic inch Chevy big block on alcohol, 2-speed power glide transmission. He will shift it at about the 7-foot marker on this 80-foot track. 1,500 horsepower of Chevrolet. Absolutely incredible! Upside down and into the safety net. Absolutely incredible ride for Tom Mintz. You can see Jim Harris, the event director, right there, as well as the paramedics and the safety crew. Mintz has motioned to him that he is okay. He says just roll this thing back over.
He had his thumb up and out of the car.
He's absolutely incredible run.
He sure gave the crowd a scare, but the minute he got up, he got quite an ovation.
Listen to this. On the run, completely sideways at the finish line, airborne and on his head. 2.20 seconds.
And he's up and walking. Look at him.
Absolutely unbelievable. That's only 17/100 of a second slower than Tom Martin's quickest run ever. Look at that young man. Look at that young man. 21 years old on a 2.20-second run. Absolutely incredible. And here's the slow motion replay. The machine at half track just blasting across the mud. Look at the tires just skimming the surface exactly the way it should be done. Now it starts to bounce around and hook to the left. You can see him working the steering wheel in the cockpit, trying to keep it straight. He stays full throttle through the shutdown area. The kill switch cuts the motor. But look at this thing. The rear end literally 7 feet in the air, and here's the landing that put him on his head. Man, what a ride for this rookie.
This is something he'll have to call home and tell him about.
I'll tell you, though, is that a classic example of the stringent safety requirements these machines have to have, or what? I'll tell you, the U.S. Auto Association safety regulations are what allowed Tom Mintz to walk away from that crash.
Well, I'll tell you, Jim Harris down there on the floor, our technical director, he supervises all the safety activities here, and that little extra time sure pays off.
There's no question about it. We will be back with more championship action from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Civic Arena. Believe me, it will get wilder here at the U.S. Auto Association Monster Truck and Mud Bog Championships. We'll be back in a moment. We're back at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena with more championship mud bog action that has already been one of the wildest events we have seen in many, many moons. The number to beat, the incredible run by the Shake Me 1932 Ford, 2.20 seconds of this 80-foot pit.
Up next is Nitro Express, driven by Clay Langley. You know, Clay has a special message that he asked me to convey to his wife, Donna, who's recuperating from back surgery. He said to get well soon, and he's dedicating this run to you.
Out of the motor. I don't know if that was just steam or smoke, but we can hear the RPM level drop substantially just off the starting line. And I don't even think Clay bothered to use the nitrous oxide injection on that run. It didn't look like that was exactly what he had in mind, Shelley.
I don't think so, but I still think Donna would be proud.
You can bet when he gets home, Donna will have something to say about it. She's a heck of a lady. I'll tell you, even with the problems, 2.80 seconds is right now good enough for the number 2 spot, and that's with problems on this brand new car, Shelley.
Well, he was sure able to hold on to it.
It was a rough ride. Like I said, it was not nearly as good as that 1932 Austin Bantam Roadster normally runs. But Clay Langley, like I said, is literally the old man of mud racing. If anybody can sort out this new chassis and make it competitive even without a supercharger, this guy will be able to do it, and he'll do it soon. This is the Executioner Jeep that was driven by John Angel back in 1985 to the national championship of the U.S. Auto Association circuit. As a matter of fact, to tell you how much these machines have evolved in the last 4 years, this truck won the national championship, this Jeep, with a real live 304 cubic inch AMC motor back then. Now it's got a 514 cubic inch alcohol burning injected Ford wedge motor. No longer is a single 4-barrel AMC engine competitive enough to win the national championship, I'm afraid. But Preston Ward from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania is also a hometown favorite here, Shelley. Well, Preston had to get out of the throttle just before the finish line as the machine was dangerously close to the outer boundary, and that's why you saw him get out of the gas before the machine ever crossed the finish line.
Well, I think he's done his son proud.
Right now, we've got our...
I tell you, Matt has been involved in this sport since he was knee-high to anybody, and believe me, when he gets behind the wheel, he'll be amazing. I'll tell you, watching the replay, the launch was spectacular, beautiful, just skimming the surface just like a mud run should be. You can see the left front wheel coming way off the ground there. Shuts it off early, but the elapsed time, even with the early shutoff, 2.75 seconds is good enough for the number 2 spot. This is Chad Miller from Vandalia, Ohio, who has run Ford Model T Roadsters in the past in mud racing. This machine powered by a nitrous oxide injected 509 cubic inch aluminum Rodex Chevrolet. Now
I understand this is the lightest vehicle in competition tonight.
That's right. It's only 1,950 pounds. Now, the Rodex Chevrolet engine is an all-aluminum replica of a 454 Chevy engine. No cast iron parts whatsoever. Now, he uses a Power Glide 2-speed transmission, one of the TCI high-performance models. He will shift this car and then hit the nitrous oxide. You'll see the actual power, or at least what appears to be the extra power, coming out of the exhaust pipes, and you'll hear it. A tremendous tremendous blast for Chad Miller. The instant T on one of the quickest runs of the night. The question is, was it quick enough to overtake the number one spot? The mark to beat, 2.20 seconds, and even Jim Harris, our event director, was thrilled with that effort. The mark to beat, like I said, 2.20 seconds. Let's look at the replay and see what happens as the machine leaves the starting line, wheels up. Miller's left-hand drive, 1927 Ford T Roadster, sticks with it. Look at the tire growth on this thing. Sticking with it all the way through, and here's the elapsed time. The mark to beat was 2.20 seconds. Chad Miller runs 2.21 seconds. By 1/100th of a second, Chad Miller is stuck in the second spot, but he is thrilled. Mark to beat still 2.20 seconds. This is Todd Schenk, the Fulton, Pennsylvania veteran with a Ford power plant in this all fiberglass funny car style Jeep.
Well, you know, he's got a couple sponsors who are mighty proud to be involved with him. Deal and Dave Speed Shop, brewery products.
Here we go.
And here we go.
I'll tell you, that machine was never more than 3 inches in the mud. That was just about a perfect pass, even though he left the starting line a little bit low on RPM, Shelley. But like you said, he's got a Budweiser sponsorship, Deal and Dave Speed Shop, and even a radio station backs him, don't they?
Well, I'm sure the radio station will be announcing how well he did today.
I think it's an AM station in Pennsylvania. WSBA is one of the backers for this particular machine. I'll tell you, we've had some incredible runs. You can see on the replay the machine getting a little bit sideways down around the 60-foot marker. Todd, did a tremendous job of correcting the machine, blasting right across the finish line. The elapsed time, 2.89 seconds. Even though the starting line launch hurt him, he still is now in the 4th spot. We'll be back with more championship mud racing action from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Civic Arena in just a moment. At the Pittsburgh Civic Arena in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as action continues here in the Steel City at the U.S. HRA Association Monster Truck Championships and Mud Bog Spectacular. This is Butch Graft from Mount Airy, Maryland, with his funny car style Jeepster, 427 cubic inch Chevy Rat motor, one of the L88 Corvette motors, as a matter of fact. Fuel injected, burning alcohol and nitrous oxide. Look at the safety equipment on this guy. The shoulder harness is a 5-point harness system, the neck collar that keeps your head from moving around too violently, and of course the full coverage helmet. All a part of U.S. HRA Association safety rules for these incredible machines.
And you know, I noticed the tires up front are smaller than the ones in the back.
Because of the weight transfer on these machines, the front tires very seldom touch the mud. Therefore, most of the traction is delivered through the rear tires, even though they're four-wheel drive vehicles. Bouncing all over the place, and what a ride for Butch Graft from Mount Airy, Maryland. Tremendous run. You can see the machine really didn't even get that dirty. That's the way a mud run should be. The machine should just skim the surface of the pit, never really digging in. Beautiful pass.
Now, what was that coming out the side of it? Was that steam of some sort?
As we can see on the replay, we'll get a chance to look. Now that's just mud hitting those exhaust headers again. Like I said, it's the same as pouring water on a hot frying pan. It's just steam coming off the exhaust headers, completely airborne off the end of the pit. And the elapsed time, 2.70 seconds. That's good enough for the number 3 spot. 2.70 seconds. And indeed, the mark to beat still 2.20. But this is the man that everybody expects will not only take the number 1 spot, but will indeed reset the current U.S. HRA Association national elapsed time record. Last night in preliminaries, on a record of 2.10 seconds, this man, Tom Martin, ran 2.07, and he's shooting for under 2 seconds flat here this afternoon. Martin on the starting line with a fuel-injected 540 cubic inch Chevrolet machine known as Mud Patrol. That's the sign on the side of this 1932 Ford 5-window coupe that a lot of drivers hate to see.
Well, I'll tell you, he's probably got one of the most dedicated crews also. His dad, John, and his mom, Norma, are his crew.
That's right.
And along with Greg Stone, they've got themselves one powerful machine.
Like I said, 2.07 seconds in preliminaries. Now looking for a new world record. The nitrous oxide injected, fuel injected, alcohol burning Chevy powered machine that won the Fall Nationals last year also has a chance to break into the number 1 spot in the National Points Championship chase if he can finish in the top 8 here tonight. A lot of pressure on young Tom Martin, the 375-pound, 23-year-old from Portage, Indiana.
Well, if anybody can take the pressure, he can.
No question. If he can get this thing off the line in good form, we're going to see an unbelievable pass. RPM's up. Martin Martin looks at the gauges, building up engine temperature. He won't leave the line until he is satisfied everything is perfect. Checks the belts. Takes aim at the finish line. Drops the RPM, clears out the throttle, and now gets ready for what may be the quickest run in U.S. Auburn Association history. Man, he is ready. Oh, an unbelievable ride! Unbelievable ride! The car was literally airborne across the finish line. Look at him! Tom Martin knows it was a great run.
Well, I got to tell you something. You think about this. You know, when these guys...
Looking at the replay, Martin's machine launched beautifully. You can see it relatively rough up the starting line, but Martin never thought about lifting the throttle. The front wheels come up, and now it's a real ride. Manhandling the machine across the finish line. The mark to beat for the #1 spot was 2.20 seconds. The official U.S. Auburn Association record was 2.10 seconds. And race fans, Tom Martin's elapsed time, 2.00 seconds. The quickest run ever for an 80-foot track and the wildest pass of the event.
I'll tell you, was one beautiful ride.
Who is going to win? So
absolutely incredible. Tom Martin takes over the #1 spot. Now he has a chance to take over the national championship points chase. Here is an incredible piece of equipment that may be able to threaten Tom Martin's Mud Patrol. This is Tim Ritchie from Buchanan, Michigan, with the Learning to Fly Jeep Funny Car, powered not by a Chevy, not by a Ford, but by a 512 cubic inch Dodge Wedge engine. One of the only Chrysler-powered machines in professional mud racing. And by the way, it uses carburetors at nitrous oxide, no supercharger, Shelley. Remember, all nitrous oxide does is add extra oxygen to the engine. Just by pushing the button, or in this case, stomping on the throttle, these guys can add about 400 to 600 extra horsepower.
Good run.
And a great run for the Chrysler wedge-powered machine. And now Tim Ritchie, during last year's competition, did some incredible jobs of driving this Chrysler-powered machine at many of the U.S. Auburn Association national events. He picked up a second and a third towards the end of the season, and as a matter of fact, is without a doubt one of the strongest running Chrysler products in the country. And you can see when he left the starting line, the rear end came up in the air, and that caused this bucking Bronco motion all the way down the pit. But still, Tim kept his throttle in it all the way. The elapsed time, 2.42 seconds. One of the quickest passes ever for the Buchanan, Michigan 20-year-old. So 2.42 seconds will give him the 4th spot right now. Tremendous effort. This is Mike Erderly, the Walkerton, Indiana driver of the 1964 Corvette called Mud Shark. And we had a chance to look at this machine up close. The United States Auburn Association Championship Mud Racing Trail has a lot of wild racers, but none strikes fear into the hearts of competitors and even officials as much as the Mud Shark 1964 Chevy Corvette out of the state of Indiana. Mike Erderly, the man who does the driving of this machine, is well known around the country for some of the wildest rides in this sport. And Mike, this car's got to have more power than any other mud machine before it.
I think it's real even with a lot of the other vehicles. We probably only running about 1,200 horse. Some of the vehicles are running full aluminum funny car top fuel motors, and they're making more power than we are.
This is basically a cast iron 468 cubic inch production Chevy motor, isn't it?
Right. It's all Chevrolet except for the Carrillo steel rods, and it's a truck Chevrolet block even.
But this particular machine has always given some of the wildest performances in the history of this association. This thing is an absolute handful to control.
It's a real short wheelbase compared to a lot of the other vehicles. It was built 4 years ago, and it's sort of a dinosaur in the sport right now.
But even so, it's one of the most popular, there's no question. And without a doubt, any machine that can keep up with this is running good. Besides that, it's got to give you the rides of your life.
It's like a $20, $25 ride at the fair if you could get one.
Erderly on the starting line. A fuel-injected, methanol-burning, supercharged, big block Chevrolet in a car with an incredibly short wheelbase that is beyond difficult to control. Erderly has ice water in his veins. Every pass he makes of this thing is one of the scariest rides you'll ever see. The mark to beat, too flat. It would take a new world's record to get the #1 spot back. But the Mud Shark is one of the wildest in the business. Keep your eyes on the incredible topless vet.
Here we go. The Corvette is about ready to...
Sideways, the across the finish line, knocking down the finish line pole, and Erdely takes another incredibly wild ride. The question is, though, the elapsed time. Because every time this car goes down the racetrack, Shelley, it may get completely sideways, but it is always one of the quickest out there.
Now, did he hit the pole after he crossed the finish line?
That's right. It will be a disqualification because he did tear the pole out of the ground. You can see it right there, nailing the pole at the finish line as Mike locked up the brakes. He was disqualified, but the elapsed time was 2.35 seconds sideways at the finish line. That would have been good enough for the number 3 spot, but unfortunately, you can see the crew down there having to pound in that finish line stake again. You know, earlier we saw Melvin Brown doing the driving of the Bud car, the Jeep funny car originally run by Ron Haverty. This is Melvin's own machine, the Blue Max, and a couple of years ago, Shelley, this was one of the very first lightweight mud racers in the Midwest, and it was a killer. This is a fuel-injected, nitrous oxide-injected 510 cubic inch Chevy-powered machine. It doesn't weigh that much, about 2,400 pounds. Like I said, 2 or 3 years ago, this was the state-of-the-art in mud racing.
We'll see if he can let it fly state-of-the-art or not.
Well, like I said, remember, after Tom Martin's 2-second flat run, it takes literally a new world record to get the number 1 spot back.
Well, we all wish him the best. He's already had a chance at this once. He should know what he's doing by now.
That's true. U.S. Auto Association allows drivers to run more than 1 vehicle in competition. And Melvin's the only one that's taking advantage of that rule book loophole so far this season. A great run! Melvin Brown's little Blue Max heads into the safety net. That's what it's there for.
Well, it was good enough to get mud on me.
We've been hit a couple of times down here tonight. I'll tell you, these guys with these incredible runs. I'll tell you, the safety net in itself is a unique innovation of the United States Auto Association. This organization was the first to use the catch net like you see on an aircraft carrier to slow these machines down. On the replay, you can see the machine literally torquing itself sideways through the pit. Melvin came out of the pit. The kill switch shut down the motor from the starting line. He runs a career best elapsed time, 2.25 seconds for Melvin Brown's Blue Max. I'll tell you, the Chevrolet and that thing was pumping. That's the quickest he's ever gone, right into the safety net. That's good enough for the number 4 spot. In the final standings, the Mud Patrol 1932 Ford 5-window coupe runs 2 seconds flat for the number 1 spot and the quickest run in 80-foot-long pit history, the U.S. Auto Association. The number 2 spot, the beautiful Shake Me machine, virtually an identical piece of equipment to Tom Martin's Mud Patrol at 2.20 seconds sideways and upside down. The Instant T of Chad Miller, the 1927 Ford T Street Roadster, runs 2.21 seconds for the 3rd spot. Melvin Brown's Blue Max at 2.25 seconds finishes 4th, and the Learnin' to Fly machine of Tim Ritchie with Chrysler power finishes in the number 5 spot at 2.42 seconds. That's the top 5 in Mud Championship action. Onto the floor of the Pittsburgh Civic Arena. The big blue Ford that started it all. The original monster truck and the machine that many people still believe is absolutely unbeatable. Kenny Kelling at the wheel of Bob Chandler's incredible Bigfoot. Shelley, the Bigfoot Ford, will get a chance to set the pace that the barefoot Chevy must beat. This is going to be wild.
Well, we'll see if experience pays off in this case because there goes Bigfoot.
A hard landing between the 3rd and 4th car on that run, and that may have slowed him down. He makes the turnaround beautifully. Kenny Kelly to hit again. A lot of smoke from underneath the engine, but still an absolutely astounding run. If anybody was quicker than a 16-second run, that was. But you can see, once again, the hydraulic hood opening up. There is still smoke out from underneath that incredible engine. The 3 Predator carburetors on top seem to be fine, but Kenny Kelling will jump out and take a look.
There he is. Let's give him a round of applause.
Jerry Devine, the U.S. Auto Association announcer, is with this organization since its very first event, cheering the Ford fans on. Well, we'll take a look at the replay. You can see where the engine started smoking about midpoint through this jump. See the smoke coming out from underneath the left-hand side fender. But listen to this elapsed time. The Barefoot Chevy fans have got their work cut out for them. 15.60 seconds. But remember, during the preliminaries, Freddie Schaefer managed to run in the 14-second zone. It's going to take that kind of performance to beat Bigfoot after that kind of run. To the roar of the the crowd. Freddie Schaefer brings Barefoot out onto the floor, and this is the run that will determine whether or not the Barefoot Illinois-based Chevrolet will walk home with the title, or yet another national championship victory will be sitting on Bob Chandler's Bigfoot mantle.
Fred really wants this, and I just hope that he can keep a level head and some level tires about him while he attempts this.
There's no question, Shelley, as you well know after witnessing the preliminaries, this man is one of the wildest ever to sit behind the wheel of a monster truck. He will not get off the throttle in this run for anything. Green flag flies, makes the first hit, completely airborne, landing hard. The car that he hit literally disintegrating, making the turn awfully tight. He swings it around. Second in, well over the board. Now bouncing across the finish line. Shelley, again, we will not know the winner of this battle until we receive the elapsed time. What a finale.
It's too close to call.
Absolutely incredible finale for this incredible championship. Here on the slow motion replay, you can see that Freddie was absolutely full throttle, hitting the last set of cars, never even thinking to let off the throttle. All he wanted to do was get that Chevrolet through the air into the finish line. The elapsed time to beat, 15.60 seconds. Here is the elapsed time for Barefoot, 15.87 seconds. By a quarter of a second, Shelley, Barefoot loses out.
Well, Kenny, you knew that Freddie Schaefer was going to give you the battle of your life, and by 27 hundredths of a second, you pulled it off.
Yeah, well, it was a very close race. We ran a close race last night. We just had to pull some more stops out tonight. That's all it was.
Well, I'll tell you, you ran the quickest elapsed time of the event so far, and that was just a phenomenal effort. But we saw the smoke coming out of the engine again. What's the problem?
I don't know. We still don't have the problem solved. I don't know if it's the turn up there. It's sloshing all the oil over into that valve cover. It's coming out of the breathers tonight.
Well, indeed, even with a problem, you managed to take on all comers. You guys are always so calm. Bob Chandler always insists that professionalism is at its peak whenever you guys appear anywhere. You just came in here and did exactly what you said you were going to do.
I try not to waste the truck getting to the line. Let the truck do the talking when we're racing.